Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our lesson on year and unit planning in English language arts. I think I froze there for a second, but it looks like we're good to go now. So we are switching out of, we've been talking a lot about sort of overall literacy concepts. We've been talking about language development. Now we're going to jump into actually what does it look like to start to plan for English language arts. And this is hopefully this will give you a little bit of an idea of how to go about your assignment 2, which are your designing your lesson plans for your classroom. Okay, so here we go. So basically, literacy in Alberta education. So why do we hear all this stuff about literacy being important? Basically, literacy, and we'll jump into this in a couple lectures after the midterm, is literacy opens doors. It's the opportunity to acquire knowledge, and the kids need literacy to achieve personal goals. And I know that that sounds kind of grandiose, but we'll look at the specifics of why literacy is so super important in not just education, but in people's lives. Literacy helps people build a better quality of life. It increases likelihood of the student being a lifelong learner. And it's essential for sharing histories and stories. We are a story people, and so literacy helps us to share those stories. Okay, so why is knowing how to teach literacy important for you? Well, literacy nowadays is really at the center of our entire education system. So if you don't have a concept of how to teach literacy, that's kind of an issue. It's kind of an issue because you will see literacy and numeracy at the core of really everything that we teach, because ultimately, really everything is a reading test. When you do any test, it's really about can you actually read it and understand it, and so that's why literacy is such a core. Again, I think of a typical school day, how much of it is reliant on being at grade level reading and writing ability. And to truly help and teach children, we must aid in developing their literacy skills. Okay, so and on a kind of really practical side, when you go for a job interview, they will most likely ask you, how are you going to teach literacy? So it's important that you have a concept of how to teach literacy. So that's what we're going to look at, sort of the nuts and bolts of that, and then the rest of the course will be finessing this. Okay, I have the chapter you're reading. I have all the chapters, and this is just one book on literacy. There are thousands of books on literacy. Do you think literacy is well researched? Absolutely, right? There's so much research that states that literacy as the core to schooling is undeniably the most important thing. When we are thinking about schooling, is we must be thinking about literacy, because again, literacy is at the core of everything that we do in school. And so again, this is just one small little look at how much research is out there, and it's undeniable that this research is saying literacy is important. Okay, so let's look. The basis of literacy teaching comes from our Alberta government. Our Alberta government mandates. And these are, I'm just going to flip over to my pencil here. We will look at these more next year, but the Alberta government has put out literacy and numeracy progressions. And basically what that's saying is how you as a teacher need to be thinking about literacy across grades from K to 12, as well as across curriculum. So whether you're teaching English language arts or science or social or phys ed, you need to be thinking about literacy. Okay, so our Alberta curriculum also is one of the main drivers behind teaching literacy, and some of our curriculum is from the 80s, some is from the early 90s, some is from 1996. Social studies is 2000. Math was updated the most recently in 2016. So our curriculum is focused really basically on content and some critical thinking, because that's where we were in education in in that time. This is a lot of these curriculum guides are pre-computer. Just think of that, pre-computer. Kind of crazy, okay? So our past government, the NDP government, were working on a more competency-based curriculum where it was based on competencies, kids gaining competencies instead of gaining content. When we switched government to the Conservative Party, they took that on. They wanted to make it their own, and so they stopped that progress and they started to go in a different direction, which they are wont to do as the government. Okay, so let's look at. I just want you to be aware of what's going on out there, because this is going to be what you graduate into. So basically curriculum, and this was Feb of 2020, so a few months ago, and this was, these were some of the comments that were coming out of from the education minister. And what they were saying about development of curriculum was that one of the areas highlighted in the recommendations as an area to improve was career training and readiness. So what I did was I kind of went through here and I underlined in red what I thought was a little scary, and I underlined in blue what I thought actually were pretty great strides in developing curriculum. So career training and readiness, that's a little scary because it's really then focuses our education system on a business model and basically a job. We're just pumping kids through to get jobs. Report recommends creating opportunities for Alberta employers, again, around that kind of business model. And here, some good stuff. We want more learning and career opportunities outside of the classroom. Absolutely. I think we need to get our kids out of the school, outside of that classroom, into real world experiences. So some really great things that are coming out, but some scary things as well. So I think you as future education students need to be aware of these things, especially around literacy. Okay, again, red is a little bit scary. This is around assessment. So public confidence, we want the public to be confident, but there's an accountability portion. And asking parents provides parents, Albertans, and the minister with reliable information. So this is, for me, it's a little bit, again, it's that business model that we want numbers, we want accountability as our curriculum is being developed, and ultimately with literacy being affected by our curriculum, okay? And we have heard even beyond the report that parents really want a more clear report card. Again, we love parents, but we really need to be focusing on our teachers and our administrators and our education professors to be dictating what's in curriculum and not sort of the public. Okay, this was part of a survey that went out in early 2020, and this is probably one of the scariest things. And I think that, again, you need to be aware of these documents that are coming out from Alberta Education. This is part of a government's commitment to end the focus on discovery or inquiry learning, also known as constructivism, and focus on providing students with a strong foundation of essential skills and knowledge to succeed in life. Okay, this is a little bit of that throwback to our curriculums that we are still in from the 80s and 90s, where we're pushing away discovery, inquiry, constructivism to go back to the basics. Again, I think as education students, you need to be aware of these documents that are coming up. And this was the ministerial order that has come forth August 6th, 2020, so a very recent document. And again, red, students will demonstrate mastery in foundational subject-specific content. So we're not wanting themes, we're not wanting to start to pull ideas together, we're wanting to keep everything siloed, which again, we know as educators that that's not the best way for kids to learn, and especially that's not the best way for kids to develop their literacy skills. And we want them to be familiar with and appreciate the great works and ideas of world history. Again, who's dictating those great works and what sort of culture is that based on? So again, I think, but here we go. These are good things. The development of literacy and numeracy will be reinforced. Yeah, hallelujah. And this whole section is excellent. Students will integrate the broad knowledge base of these subjects to learn to think for themselves, solve problems creatively, collaborate, and communicate effectively. So I'm going to leave that one with you to read. Again, all of these ministerial orders coming from Alberta Education, I think you need to start to just be like, that's interesting, because it will mandate how you teach, and it will mandate how we teach literacy, particularly. And we want literacy to always be at the core of our education system. Okay, there we go. That's a little bit of a umbrella look at how do we actually now start to plan. Okay, so let's have a look at year planning. I love year planning. I think basically what it is you plan your entire year in generalities. So you are not planning specifically what you're going to do Monday morning at 10. You are planning, I'm going to do this unit for 3 weeks. I'm going to do this unit for 4 weeks. I'm going to do this unit in June. I'm going to do this unit in September. So basically the purpose of year planning is it gives you a sense of direction. It gives you, like, what are you doing in the year? It helps you fulfill outcomes, and we're going to look at those outcomes, those Alberta education outcomes that are basically your job to teach as a teacher. And there will be administrators that require you to hand in your plans. Some will ask you for them, some won't ask you for them, but it's an excellent practice to get in. Okay, so basically when you're looking at year planning, it should be based on student ability and level. That's always a tricky one when you first start, because you don't really know the kids. You kind of have to just take a guess at what you think grade 3s or grade 6s will do, and then adjust. Authentic experiences as readers and writers, so not just a whole bunch of packets of worksheets, but real authentic experiences where they're really reading and writing for real purpose. Your interest and expertise, absolutely. If you are totally into Greek mythology, you should do a unit on Greek mythology, because you'll be super excited about it, and you will then teach it with lots of energy and passion. And so make sure you think about your own interests and expertise. You want to think about authentic interdisciplinary activities. So how can you bring in some math? How can you bring in some science, some social studies into your English language arts classroom, and ultimately with the ultimate goal of supporting literacy? And you need to look at the Alberta Education Program of Studies, which we're now going to jump into. This document, its last update was 2000, so it's getting to be a little bit old, but hopefully I think the government is working hard on coming up with a new curriculum, so you should graduate into, here's hoping, into a new curriculum. Okay, this is what we're going to do in Collaborate. What I want you to do is have a look at the program of studies, and so just go to this website, and I want you to look at, why do we teach language according to the Alberta Program of Studies Introduction, and what are the 5 general student outcomes. So just have a look at this, and we're going to, with a buddy, you're just going to have a chance to talk about those a little bit during our Collaborate time. So I'm going to leave that with you to do. Okay, let's go on. How you start your year planning, because you go, well, I don't have a clue. I'm teaching grade 3. I don't have a clue what I'm supposed to be teaching. Well, you have a program of studies for English language arts, and you have an illustrative example of objectives. And ooh, look at that, that's a little spelling mistake in there. Oh, I know why I have this here, is because if this document here is just a grade 4 document, but if you're teaching grade 6 or grade 1 and you want to find your specific grade document, just Google Alberta Education Illustrative Example without the extra S, and then grade whatever, 621, and you'll find it. Okay, so I'm going to just now go to this. I think I have it pulled up here. Okay, I'm going to go to this. This one is, I think we're all in here still. Yes. So this is your program of studies for English language arts. And you can see, here's your introduction that I want you to be looking at. And this has I want you to just have a read through this. And then it has here are your objectives for overall. Then what happens is you go, okay, well, I'm teaching grade 2. So you go over here to grade 2. And now what it's done is it's pulled all of the grade 2 outcomes together for you. So as I scroll through, these are all the outcomes just for grade 2 in English language arts. Don't panic. You will be able to fulfill them all, but there are usually about 95 of them in every sorry, now that's grade 3, in every grade. So so this is, yeah, don't panic. Don't panic. We'll guide you. I'll guide you through all of these. But what you want to do is just have a look through specifically your grade, because it's interesting for you to know what are the objectives of English language arts in your grade, so that when you go out into your practicum, you have a bit of a sense of why the teacher is doing what he or she is doing. Okay? So you just go grade 2, whatever grade you are, grade 6, it lists them all out here. So have a bit of a go with that. The illustrative example, if you're reading through these objectives and you're like, I don't actually understand what use prior experiences with oral, print, and other media text to choose new texts that meet learning needs and interests. You're like, I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue what that means. You can go here to the illustrative examples, and it will then, once you get past all this stuff, it will then give you each of the bulleted objectives, and then it'll give you a little bit of an example. I don't find this particularly useful. There's some really good examples and then examples that I'm just as confused about before I went there. But it's a good resource for you when you're starting and you're kind of going, I don't really have a clue what these objectives mean. You can go and have a little bit of a look at some of these examples. Okay, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint now. Okay, so that's your program of studies. That's the Alberta Education document for every grade of what you are required to teach as a teacher. Okay, so again, in Collaborate, what we're going to do is we are going to, sorry, I'm going to catch up here. We're going to get together as a class, brainstorm some possible ELA activities for any grade. So I want you to think about daily work. So daily work are things like calendar time, sharing circle, community circle, daily read alouds, DEAR, drop everything and read program. So anything that you've seen out there that's kind of happens daily. I also want you to think about program work. So that would be if you see your teacher using like Literacy Place, like an actual program that so something like this, like you actually see a physical program that the teacher is actually following. So kind of look around when you're out on practicum for these types of things. Start to think about units that you could do. So you could do, like I said, you could do a unit on Greek mythology. You could do a unit on fairy tales, on poetry, on readers' theater, on movie versus book. You could do podcasts. So think again about some kind of units out there that you've seen or you did as a student that you think, oh, that would be kind of cool. And then some projects. Okay, so projects might be you are going to create a new handbook. You're the grade 6 class and you're going to create a new handbook for the school for new parents coming to the school. So that would be kind of a writing project. Also want you to think about length of time for each. So maybe you think, I could teach Greek mythology. I have my grade 5 class. I could teach that in 3 weeks. Or I need 6 weeks. Probably more than 6 weeks for elementary is too long for a unit because they start to kind of lose steam in there. Okay, so start to think about how long in actual days or weeks. And I want you to think about placement in the year. And I think I'm just going to try to find my, where did it go? Okay, just hang on. Hang on here. I'm going to show you all these things eventually. Oops. Sorry. I'm going to go back through so I can get there. Sorry, I just have to find it here. Don't know where it went. Anyways, it was the actual, sorry, now I want to find it. So now don't watch while I move things around on my, here we go. It's hiding. Okay, so I want you to think about actual dates as well. So this is the Medicine Hat Public School Division 2020. So I want you to think about, okay, what would I actually start in September with? What would be a good unit to start with? Probably something about the kids so I can get to know them. What would be good in October or around Halloween, around Remembrance Day? I'd want to make sure that I'm done a unit before Christmas. You don't want a unit kind of hanging after a holiday because then the kids forget. Okay, so start to think realistically as well about where could these units and things go in an actual school year. You'll also see that you lose a lot of days. Okay, so you lose a lot of days to holidays, to professional development days, and then I call days like the day before Halloween soft days, because you're not going to get a ton done on those days. So don't plan a big unit test on the day before Halloween, or the day after Halloween is also bad because the kids are all sugared up and haven't had any sleep in there. So again, start to kind of be really realistic about your planning. Okay, I'll bring this back in here. So we're going to have a fair bit of time to do this in Collaborate when we meet. Okay, we also are I'm going to try to get you in your grade groups together so you can actually start to look at the ELA program of studies, start to look at those objectives, and maybe start to brainstorm, again, some daily work, some program work, some units, and some projects that you are either seeing your teacher do or you might possibly want to do in the future. Okay, so that is, oh, I didn't show you. Oh my goodness, I didn't even show you the templates, did I? Okay, let me show you the year plan templates, because these are kind of fun. I don't know where I can move myself. I'm gonna move this over here. Well, you'll just kind of have to see me I'll be a little bit green. Okay, so actually I'll move myself down, sorry, mumbling away to myself. Okay, so this is what a year plan actually looks like. So basically you have sort of daily program work, and then you have units across the top, and then I have some integrated units here where you're doing cross-curricular type work, and then assessment here. Basically then what you do is you have all of those bullet points. I'm going to go back to this. You have all of these bullet points here. These guys. Those ones. You have them written. Sorry, why is that not going back? Oh, I know, because I can't with the pencil. Okay, there we go. You have all of them written out here. So all of those bullet points you have written out here. And so then you've got 1.1, 1.2. I've written out the general outcome for you here. So you'll get this template next year. We won't jump too far into this year. I just want you to kind of see. And then you have all of the outcomes all the way down. I'm making you a little ill. Okay, let's go to not that one, sorry. Where is it? This one. Okay. This is Gina, Justine, Sarah, and Nikki's from last year. They're in 4th year right now. And this is their year plan that they've allowed me to share with you. So basically what they've put here is the literacy, numeracy, daily booklet, read alouds. They're doing a reader's theater unit. They're doing some creative writing workshop, poetry, all these kind of things. And then basically what they're doing is they're going along and they're saying, okay, I really think that creating writing workshops can actually fulfill this particular outcome. And I really think that poetry can actually fulfill this outcome too. Generally, you want to have, if it's about a 3-week unit, you want to have about 10 to 15 objectives total, or else you won't really be able to fulfill them. Okay, so don't worry again too much about that, but I don't want you to think that there's hundreds of objectives per unit. because you wouldn't actually be able to fulfill them. Okay, so I'm going to just tell you about, so Reader's Theater, actually, I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint, and we're going to jump into why do unit plans now. So I'm going to come back to that year plan in just a minute. So why do we do unit plans? So we've gone from year plans, which are pretty big, the whole year. Now we're going to unit plans, which are about 3 weeks to 6 weeks in length. And they basically, now we start to bring it down a little bit. Basically, they bridge between year and lesson plans. They give you, again, a clear sense of direction, and they help you focus your planning on the particular abilities, interests, and aspirations of you and your class. And it ensures that you cover the Alberta Program of Studies objectives, which is your job. And you'll have to decide if it's a content unit, so something like a novel study, or a thematic unit, something like Wasted Our World, which has a theme, and then you pull in science and math and ELA and social and things like that. Okay, if you are thinking about, so this is this thematic unit here. If you are thinking about doing a thematic unit, it's organization of curriculum around a central theme and is usually cross-curricular. Okay, so why would you want to create a unit around a theme? Basically, usually it's a little bit more interesting to the students because they really get to dive into a concept. For example, if you wanted to do, I know like River Heights does a whole settlers, grade 4 settlers, and they look at the settlers from every aspect. From where did they get their food, to writing letters home, to how did they figure out how much grain they would need to plant. Like it's really kind of crazy how they've brought it all together. Okay, it helps students understand connections instead of these sort of silo content areas. It compacts the curriculum, and you actually save time because you are teaching quite a few objectives all at once. And it draws on connections from the real world and life experiences. Usually you could bring in more real world connections when you do a thematic unit. Okay, what I want to do now is, so you're going, hey, yeah, okay, these units sound great, but where do these units come from? Okay, they come from your colleagues. So you might, when you talk with your colleagues and they have a great idea for a unit, write it down. And that should go in your e-portfolio for your one of your final assignments, your assignment 3, right? Practicum, when you're out there on your practicum, ask your partner teacher, what are your units? What are you doing this year in grade 3? And from us, we will give you lots of ideas for units, for thematic units, for content units, and you just, again, be writing them down, putting them up on your e-portfolio so that you have this lovely base of ideas when you graduate and are off on your own. Okay, you'll also, as a teacher, do lots of cool PD sessions where they'll introduce some cool ideas and you take notes and you keep those. Teacher resources, so things like that you get off Teachers Pay Teachers. Again, I think you have to be careful with those kind of resources. Usually you end up only being able to use about 50% of them because either it's boring or it's worksheet driven or it just doesn't fit your kids. Okay, or you develop your own. It's a lot of work, and you will learn how to develop unit plans next year, but you can certainly develop your own unit plan. Okay, what I want to do now is I want to just show you a template of a unit plan that's based on Reader's Theater. But what I want you to do is I want you to stop me now and watch this little 1.5-minute video so that you kind of know what Reader's Theater is, or else the exemplar won't make as much sense. Okay, so go and watch that for just a minute and then come on back and we'll finish up with units. Okay, hopefully that video gave you a little bit of an idea of what was going on in here. Okay, so unit plan now. The unit plan, basically on a unit plan, there are your outcomes, there's an overview of opportunities, you have day and dates, and then you have Alberta education competencies, you have assessment type, you have literacy and numeracy progressions, and you have reflection and revisions. So for you guys, we're not going to worry too much about this stuff in italics right now, but we're going to just have a bit of a go with these first ones. But again, I would just kind of want you to know that's out there. Okay, now I'm going to flip through some things here. Okay, so this is what I want to go back to. So this is your year plan. So your year plan, if I was going to do a unit on Reader's Theater, I would cruise through here and I would say, okay, I think, and I put big X's so we could find them. I really think that this is 2.2 respond to text, that I can actually fulfill, identify and discuss favorite authors, topics, and kinds of oral, print, and other media texts. So I think that doing a Reader's Theater unit will fulfill this particular outcome. Okay. And then I also think it will identify the main events in oral, print, and other media texts, explain their causes, and describe how they influence subsequent events. So what you're going to do is you put X's here between what you think is going to be the best fulfillment of the unit plan and the objective. At the end of the day, basically these are then all your unit plan objectives. So if I cruise through here, sorry, making you a little ill. So I'm going to pull these objectives out, and they then are miraculously going to become our objectives for our unit plan. So basically, once you do your year plan, you have all of your objectives laid out for the entire year, which is amazing. So then you just basically pull them from your year plan and then start into your unit plan and ultimately your lesson plan. So this is our MHC template. This is our unit plan template. Basically the grade, the year, the unit, and then the actual dates. And then I usually put in the actual days or how many weeks. Here are all, where's my little pencil? Here are all of my curricular outcomes from my year plan. So you don't come up with these sort of willy-nilly on your own. Then you look down here. So then you're going to put in the applicable outcomes. So these 2.2.G corresponds, this little 2.2.G corresponds with this little guy, 2.2.G, just so you don't have to write it out a million times. And then what you do is an overview of opportunities about 2 days. What are you going to do in the 2 days out of the 15-day unit? So on one day, where's my little pencil here again? Oops. One day here, I am going to do a KWL. So what do I know? What do I want to know? And then ultimately the learn is at the end. But I'm going to do a KWL on understanding of story structure. So I'm going to, for one day, do that, and then I'm probably going to do a review of story structure. Then for 2 days of my unit, I'm going to do a review, story structure, and character development. Fourth day, I'm going to read and discuss a variety of stories where characters either change dramatically from beginning to end or do not. And I'm going to do that for 2 days. Okay. Again, don't worry about this right now. You'll have to worry about that next year, but not right now. Okay. So again, it starts to block it down a little bit for you. It's taking it from the big year plan and starting to make it more manageable. You still can't teach Monday morning from 9 to 10 from this. It's not detailed enough, but at least you know, okay, one day the first day of this unit, I'm going to do a KWL on understanding story structure. Awesome. I know what I have to do. Now I just have to do the specifics of it. Okay. And then we just cruise down. Here are your literacy, numeracy aspects. Again, don't worry too much about it. I just want to kind of show it to you, kind of put it in there. Alberta education competencies, and then ultimately reflection and revisions, which if you actually taught this unit, you would write in there, what did they really enjoy? Keep for next year, cut down to 1 next year. 2 days of performance gets really long. And then Reader's Theater helped all levels of readers with fluency and comprehension. Again, just some notes. Okay, that's a big romp through year planning and unit planning. We're going to have a little bit of time to actually work through that, but have a look at those documents, especially the Alberta Program of Studies and your grade level Program of Studies, because that will situate you to really have a good discussion during Collaborate. All right, the next one is lesson planning, and that's where we get super specific. All right, see you in a bit.